Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're literally unpacking the invisible forces that shape exactly what we do day in and day out. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into how our habits are built right from the ground up. So here's a question for you. Why on earth do we obsessively check our phones for notifications? Or, why does someone sit at a slot machine for hours just pulling that lever over and over again? Well, it's not just a lack of willpower, I promise you. The answer actually lies in this powerful academic concept called schedules of reinforcement. Now, I know that sounds a bit intimidating, but stick with me. By the end of this, you are going to see it absolutely everywhere. It all really just boils down to 4 magic rules that dictate exactly how rewards influence our actions. If you've ever flipped through a psychology textbook, terms like intermittent reinforcement can sound incredibly dry and honestly pretty complicated. But we're going to take all that heavy jargon and translate it into simple, childlike building blocks of habit. Think of this as the absolute easiest way to understand why we do what we do. We just need to learn a couple of incredibly sticky memory tricks to decode the whole matrix. Ready? All right, here's our first big mnemonic cheat code. When you hear the word interval in behavior science, I want you to simply think of time passing, minutes, hours, days. On the flip side, when you hear the word ratio, just think of tries, literally the number of actions or repetitions you have to do to get a reward. So say it with me. Interval equals time and ratio equals tries. Now for the second cheat code. The word fixed simply means a set rule. It is highly predictable, you know exactly what the rule is. Variable, on the other hand, means a surprise. It's an unpredictable average, basically keeping you on your toes because you never quite know exactly when that payoff is coming. So again, fixed is set and variable is surprise. Okay, here's where the magic happens. When we mash these 4 simple words together, time, tries, set, and surprise, we create the 4 schedules of reinforcement. Fixed interval, variable interval, fixed ratio, and variable ratio. These 4 combinations are literally the secret sauce. They control almost everything we do, from how we hustle at our jobs to how we play games and even how we interact with our friends. Now, let's talk about the actual physical shape our behavior takes here. For a fixed interval, or our set time rule, it forms this distinct wavy, scalloped pattern. When we know reward is coming at a set time, we actually take a break. We pause right after we get the reward because, well, we know doing the behavior right now won't get us anything. But as the clock ticks closer to that set time, our effort suddenly rushes upward in this steep, dramatic curve. To ground this in reality, think about getting a Friday paycheck. On Monday, your motivation to check your bank account is pretty low. That's that long pause. But by Thursday night or Friday morning, you are highly engaged and waiting for that deposit. The exact same thing goes for a child's weekly allowance or calling a radio station that only does giveaways at the top of the hour. We wait and wait and wait and then rush to act when the time is right. Now, what happens when we switch to a fixed ratio or set tries? The shape completely changes to a stepped staircase pattern. Because the reward is based on a set number of actions, we work incredibly hard and fast in a sudden burst just to reach that magic number. Once we hit it and finally get the reward, we take a quick breather on that flat step before launching right back into the next high-speed burst. And you see this stepped pattern everywhere when we count actions. Think about a student getting a sticker for every 5 math problems they complete. They're going to blitz through those 5, grab their sticker, take a breath, and then blitz through the next 5. Or an employee who gets a cash bonus for exactly every 10 sales. They will hustle hard to hit that target, celebrate the bonus, and then reset. That set number of tries creates this beautiful stair-step burst of energy. All right, now let's introduce the element of surprise. This is variable interval or surprise time. And notice how straight and steady this pattern is compared to the others. Because we know a reward is coming based on time passing, but the exact timing is a complete surprise. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 2 days. We just maintain a slow, steady, continuous pace of checking in. There's no rush, sure, but there's no pausing either. A great real-world example of this is unpredictable praise from a teacher or a boss. If they just walk around and give praise at random times throughout the day, you'll steadily stay on task because you never know when they might walk by. The same goes for waiting on a text or a call from a friend. The timing is a total surprise, so we just give our phones a steady, casual glance throughout the day. And now we reach the most powerful schedule of them all, variable ratio or surprise tries. Just imagine a line climbing incredibly fast and steep. Because a reward is based on the number of times you try, but the exact number of tries needed is a total surprise, your brain literally goes into overdrive. You act as fast and as often as possible because, well, the very next try absolutely might just be the winning ticket. This right here is exactly what drives the slot machine. You know pulling the lever brings the reward, but it might take 2 pulls or it might take 50. So what do? You'll pull it rapidly, again and again. Door-to-door fundraising works the exact same way. The next door could be a massive donation, so you just keep knocking at lightning speed. It is the ultimate hook for our brains, generating a relentless, high-speed rate of behavior. So when we put them all side by side, it's wild to see how combinations of time, tries, set rules, and surprises literally change the physical geometry of our habits, from the wavy scallops of a paycheck wait to the rapid staircase of a sales bonus, right up to the intense, steep climb of a slot machine. Our environment shapes our actions in highly, highly predictable ways. So we've seen how to build these habits, but I want to shift gears for a second and introduce a bit of a plot twist. What happens to our behavior when the rug is completely pulled out from under us? Like, what happens when a behavior that always got a reward suddenly gets absolutely nothing? Well, in behavioral science, pulling the plug on a reward is called extinction. To put it super simply, extinction is when you completely withhold the payoff for a behavior that used to work, with the goal of making that behavior disappear. It's how we try to stop unwanted habits. But as we're about to see, the brain does not give up its favorite rewards without a serious fight. And that brings us to the extinction burst, a massive spike in behavior. I really need to warn you here. Before a bad habit disappears, things are going to get much worse and a whole lot louder. When you suddenly stop rewarding a behavior, the person, or the animal for that matter, doesn't just politely stop. No way. Their behavior actually spikes in frequency and intensity. They will try harder, louder, and faster to get the reward that used to be there. Let's walk through a classic scenario. Imagine a child who normally gets an iPad when they throw a tantrum. Now, if a parent decides to use extinction and just ignores the tantrum, the child isn't just going to say, okay, fair enough. No, the screaming will get louder, more intense, and way more aggressive. That is the extinction burst in action. It is just the brain frantically trying to force the old reward rule to work. Only if the parent stays entirely consistent will the screaming eventually drop off and decrease. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a look at your own routines, your productivity, or maybe a habit you're desperately trying to break. Which schedule is in the driver's seat? Is it time, tries, a set rule, or a surprise? Because once you see the building blocks, you finally have the power to rearrange them. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time.